Sometimes things just come together perfectly.
Yeah?
Like when your friend and a great basketball writer and speaker like Ramona Shelburne, who just wrote a piece on Caitlin Clark.
Big fan.
I really hope that we didn't ruin this for her.
Oh.
But there is breaking news, Ramona, as you come on our show.
Wait, what?
Caitlin Clark has gone number 1 overall
there you go.
in the WNBA draft.
Yeah. I was watching this on my phone as I'm driving through LA right now. The ESPN app, right? Oh, such a company woman right there. But I was watching it on it, and it's like, even though you know she's going number 1, it's still kind of exciting, right? Like, it's still exciting. But they didn't take too long to build her down. You got to tell me those two. Did they take if the Sparks take can break? Okay.
Yes, we'll tell you. Right. It has not happened as of yet.
Break into this interview, okay? Because it's coming up next.
No, for sure.
A big long commercial break.
Yeah.
After the Caitlin Clark cliffhanger. You know?
I bet the Caitlin Clark to go number 1. I bet $100,000 to win $1. So I feel pretty good about that. Yeah. You can go ahead and, cash me out one time, risk reward, and the Sparks are on the clock.
Yeah, no,
this is pretty exciting.
The pick is in.
The pick is in?
The pick is in, and it will be Cameron Brink of Stanford. There it is. Let's go, Cardinal. Come on, Ramona.
All right now, let's go.
I
love it. Hit those notes. Yeah.
She's crying a little bit, Ramona. She's crying a little bit. Are you?
I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
That's exactly. You know what? It's like we have this pipeline here with the Sparks and Stanford girls. Like,
exactly.
Today, Karen Brink, like, it's pretty good.
Oh, love it. Love it. Yeah. All right, now, will you be this excited when the Warriors beat the Kings tomorrow night?
I do think that's going to happen, but, I don't know. Like, how did we end up here? I keep saying this on the show, okay? How crazy is that all these teams have better records than they had last year, and they're in the play-in? All of them.
Seriously.
Yeah, all the better records. Like the Kings, I think had 48 wins last year. Okay, so that's the only one, right? But the Lakers had a better record than last year. The Suns had a better record. The Warriors had a better record. And they all, like last year the Warriors are 6th. This year they're 10th. It's so crazy in the West this year. Like you're looking down on them like, oh, they ended up in the play-in tournament, but they won an extra game this year than what they had last year.
And they could have won probably 5 or 6 more had they not, coughed up so many games and Draymond suspension and all the rest of it. But looking at this game on Tuesday, tomorrow, how much confidence should anybody have in the Warriors considering how uneven even the past 3 days have been for them?
I don't know what to make of them because I felt like Steph Curry was kind of worn down. I'm glad they gave him that day off and they still got the win. Because I guess it wouldn't have mattered. They ended up 10, right?
Yep.
But can you imagine if they could have moved up? Like if Sacramento would have lost, they could have moved up, and then shut Steph in that game. But he seemed pretty run down to me, and I also thought like they were just leaning on him so hard this year that they had to give him a break. But it's like Mark. I was doing a show a couple hours ago. We were showing shots of the year, dunks of the year. And they showed that Jokic 3-pointer that beat him, right?
Yep.
And I was like, man, when you look at all the games, like think about that shot right there. That win right there is the difference between 7 and 10. Jokic throwing up a heave from the corner. It's crazy how tight this is. And like, what do I make of the Warriors? I don't know. I just saw them beat the Lakers pretty handily in LA. I just saw them. I thought it was. A little concerning with them in the Pelicans at home, right? But I still think the same thing I felt all year. When they get healthy and when they get right, they could beat anybody in this league. And I think they're starting to get healthy and they're starting to get right. The question is did they just dig too big of a hole? And I don't know. It's gonna be a tough road. And they come from the 10 spot here.
Yeah. So Ramona Shelburne's with us. I mean, to that end, in your opinion, how far away will we go from chalk in the West? Because these teams are also even. Who's vulnerable and who could really make a run?
I mean, It's weird because the Mavericks have been the hottest team, right? And you look at them and you go, okay, let's say they keep it up, but I'm not sure the Mavericks beat the Clippers. Like, I'm really not. I think the Clippers could go all the way on this half of the bracket. Like, the Clippers kind of thought they were going to have to play Denver in the second round, and then all of a sudden the Spurs come up and beat Denver and send them to the 2 seed, other half of the bracket. So I think whoever wins that series, I think that's your dark horse, like either the Clippers or the Mavericks. Those 2 teams feel real dangerous to me. I'm not. This is not to take away from Oklahoma. I think I would not shock me at all if the Thunder goes to the conference finals. Would not shock me at all if they lose in the first round. Like that's how evenly matched this Western Conference is. But like, people are talking about the Thunder like them losing in the first round is expected. Like they're not even going to be favored, even though they're 1 seed. Come on, they're a 1 seed in the best conference in basketball. Like, that's a really good team. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was, like, sitting the last 3 weeks because he had a thigh bruise. He's going to be fresh. Like, Chet Holmgren played all 82. Like, that team is young and good, and they don't even know what they know. They don't even know they're not supposed to win yet. So if that's the road you got to go through, if you're the Warriors, like, you have to go through that 1 seed, right? If you're going to come up through the 9-10 game, that's no easy task either. So I'm gonna say I think whoever wins that Clippers Dallas series is your dark horse.
What do you think about that part of it, though, Ramona? The idea of championship pedigree, and you mentioned they don't know what they don't know yet. Does OKC, are they hampered by the fact that they don't have that experience of going into a best of 7 and going through the rigors of a 2-month jaunt to the championship? Yeah.
A little bit, but my biggest question with the Thunder is their interior, right? Like if you haven't watched them play, they have a really interesting style. They sort of remind me a little of the Warriors, right? Like they play up and down, they get up and down, but they play 5 out. Like Chet Holmgren is your center, and he plays on the 3-point line, right? Like he stands out there in the corner and shoots threes. So they sort of play 5 out because they need to have room for Shai. And I don't know how that's going to work against the Warriors, right? Like, if that's your first-round opponent, and you have Draymond running that backline defense, like, that's going to be a tough matchup for them. Same thing if the Lakers end up being their opponent. Like, they just have big, tall trees, and it's hard to, if you don't have a tough interior, if you have a tough interior defender like that, it's going to be hard to create the kind of space that they need. But they also, if they shoot the lights out, which they mostly do, I think they have a really good chance of beating any of their first round opponents. Because it's just stylistically and the age, you wonder how they match up against certain teams, right? Just because, like Chet Holmgren, I love Chet Holmgren. I know I was a little bit skeptical when he came out of Gonzaga because I just saw him as like a tall guy, skinny, whatever. I watched him play in a summertime run once, and he was so competitive and so tough. I totally changed my tune on him, and he is. The fact that he played all 82 this year, being the skinniest year. I mean, I caught him in LA. He had a black eye, and he was playing with it, and he couldn't even open his eyeball up because he caught an elbow 3 games ago. I mean, that dude he looks so deceiving when you see him, and so he's not your typical tough guy on the inside, but he's a matchup nightmare if you don't have the right personnel. I'd be curious to see that series if the Warriors come through and play them, because I don't even know who would defend him. Like, I mean, maybe they would have Draymond do it. Maybe they'd have Kuminga out on him. It's weird. I don't think you're going to put Trace on him out there because he's going to be on the perimeter. I mean, it's a strange matchup.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the name Jonathan Kuminga. Ramona, around here, there's a lot of angst about Kuminga, Wiggins. Can they play together? Is Kuminga now upset that he's been moved, at least for the moment, to the bench? What do you know about that dynamic, and how do you think that will play out not only in whatever this week is, but into the offseason?
Well, he got a little Wally Pipp, right? I mean, he got hurt, and then he came back and took his job. That's just the thing about the Warriors is like Draymond said this the other day. I forget where the interview was. Might have been in LA. He said, all of us have come off the bench, right? Like, all of us. Steph came off the bench in playoff games. Draymond comes off the bench. And last year against Sacramento, he came off the bench. So Clay's been coming off the bench. Like, that's just kind of how it goes with the Warriors. Like, when a lineup is clicking, Steve Kerr sticks with that lineup. And if you can't deal with that, then you can't be on the Warriors. Like, that's their culture. And I think JK got a bad rap because of that one story that came out, which I don't think he had anything to do with. He might have been frustrated earlier about not playing certain games, but I don't think it was his choice to leak anything. I think he had a pretty good attitude. Maybe he vented to somebody and then that person told the reporter. But I've always heard positive things about JK in terms of how he handles things. And so if you want to get back on the court, like I think a first round series against Oklahoma City would probably be a great opportunity for him to get back on the court because like matchup wise, he makes more sense to me than Trace Jackson Davis does.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. We're talking with Ramona Shelburne of ESPN.
Ramona, Mark and I have made a pact to stay in the moment and try to take it game by game. We haven't been willing to stay and run it back or try to blow this thing up and make wholesale changes.
I think the core will be intact, right? Like, I think the big three will be intact. I'm curious about whether they take a big swing because they certainly have the ammo to do it. They have the draft picks, they have the young players, they have a couple contracts they could trade, and there's some very interesting trade candidates out there. Like, I know this sounds very Warriors, right? Like, but you think that they should cut pay. I think they will try to get under the second apron. I do. It makes the most sense for them, but I also think that they are always in the market for stars. And there are going to be some stars this summer that might be available. I'm thinking more front court rather than back court because you already have Steph and Clay. I assume Klay Thompson will figure something out. I just can't see the Warriors without him. But yeah, I could be wrong. Maybe Orlando throws a bag at him. I don't know. But I think Klay stays. And then the big question is Chris Paul. Like, Chris Paul's been great for them when he's been healthy. I know they really like him. If he comes back, how does he come back? Does he come back with the contract he's under? Do they renegotiate something? Is there an opportunity to get him for a lesser cost? Like, what would he think of that? Does he have a market elsewhere? Like, that's all. Those are the two that I have the biggest questions about. Like, what do they do going forward? But to me, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they go big game hunting again.
Okay, you mentioned some front court stars might be available. Do tell. Mm-hmm. We want names.
I know you do. I'm gonna let that one sit. You're gonna have to figure that out. You have to figure that one out.
Well,
but one of them we've already reported on. One of them they tried to get LeBron at the deadline.
Sure.
Right? And that's more complicated now. But I think what's the biggest. This group didn't fit together the way that they wanted them to, or the way that they have in the past, right? And I think they could use a little more shooting. They could use another dependable scorer. So I would just watch to see what they do. Maybe they'll just stand pat and kind of get under the second apron and run it back next year. But how do you have a team that still has Steph Curry? If he's not squarely in his prime, he is just a little south of it, just a little, right? Like he's 95% of what he was back when they were rolling. And how do you not give him the best chance to win again? How do you not take a few swings? Whether they pull those off, I don't know, but I think they try.
Yeah, you think that the trade assets exist for them to do something like that?
100%. I mean, they have their draft picks. They have young players like Moody, who a lot of people really like Moody. People like Kuminga. I don't think they'll ever trade Kuminga, or they'll really fight hard not to. People like Podziemski. I don't think they would want to trade Podziemski. Same thing with Trace. But, people are going to call about their young players. Those are good players. Plus, you have contracts like Wiggins' contract, like Chris Paul's contract is interesting. Even some of the other guys on the bench, like Looney or Gary Payne, they have the kind of assets that teams want. That's they don't have albatross contracts on the Warriors. I actually think for as expensive as that team is, they're actually very well positioned to recalibrate.
Wow. And do you think that what happens over the course of the next couple of days will dictate their course, or do you imagine that the owner, Joe Lacob, is already dead set on trying to make this big swing, knowing that what he has in Steph Curry and a fading core is not going to be enough to to run it back and win another chip?
I think it would help if they got out of the play-in, right? I think it would help if they had a playoff series and showed some signs of life. But I don't think it dictates anything. I think everything in the Warriors' DNA is that they're going to try to contend for as long as they can contend. They just gave Steve Kerr 2 more years. Steph's got 2 more years. For as long as those two guys are riding together, I think the Warriors try everything they can to give them a chance to win.
Ramona Shelburne, ESPN. Hey, you started off by saying you think that they will handle tomorrow night well. Give me a little bit on that matchup. Why you think the Warriors will win tomorrow night?
I don't feel that strongly about it, right? I wouldn't be shocked if Sacramento won at all. They've had an entire year to think about that Game 7. Sacramento's been, they just lost 2 really key players. That does matter. I was at that Game 7 last year. Malik Monk was important. He was really important in that series. And I also think they have as much as both teams have made changes this year, both teams are different. It's also both teams have the blueprint for how that series shook out, right? The Warriors have an idea of how to defend Sabonis. They have an idea of what to do with De'Aaron Fox. They didn't really stop De'Aaron Fox. He just broke his finger, and
right.
That's the only thing that really stopped him in that series. But they have different personnel, right? They mostly stopped Sabonis with Kevon Looney and Draymond. Kevon's not really in the rotation right now, so do we see him make a cameo? I don't know. It wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me if he played the other night when they were resting everybody. He, got a little rust off. We'll see. I think they go with what they've been playing with, but these teams know each other so well, and the Warriors got the better of them last year. Plus, I just think losing those 2 reserves really hurts. Malik Monk was going to win 6th Man of the Year. He's really important for what they do.
No, and he's a Warrior killer. Absolutely. Yeah. So, no, I'm with you on that one. Ramona, thank you. Thank you so much. There were more picks in the WNBA draft while we were talking, but I didn't catch all of them. I hope that's okay.
Looks like Camila Cardozo went to Chicago.
She went 3rd. Yep. She went 3rd.
Yeah, and then Rakia Jackson went to the Sparks. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And I was kind of thinking they were going to take Angel Reese there.
Angel Reese is still available at this hour.
And
she's
Dallas
still
on the clock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen, I talked to Lisa Leslie the other day for that story I did on Caitlin Clark. And Lisa cannot understand why she's falling. She's like, anybody who can get 5 offensive rebounds, 20 rebounds in a game, so competitive. Plus, I'm from LA, Mark. You spent some time down here. Isn't Angel Reese made for LA?
Made for it. I don't know if anybody's watching this, but I drafted her for her outfit alone tonight. She looks unbelievable.
She was awesome.
Yeah.
I was hoping they would take her at 4, but I guess not. It's okay.
All right.
We'll see where she ends up.
Yep.
Well,
hopefully it's a big market where she can shine, because she is a huge personality, great player. I know she, maybe she doesn't shoot the way people want her to shoot, but that girl can play.
Congratulations on Steph Curry's god sister from your university coming to your town. Did I say that right?
I think that's right.
Okay.
Can we do a little Stanford? 5, 6, 7, 8. Woo!
Yeah, you did it. You did it. It was perfect.
I did it.
Okay, Momo, thank you.
Thanks, boys.
All right, there she goes.